Hello, this is Roland checking in to see how you're doing. Sometimes I say, hello, this is Pastor Roland. Other times I say, hello, this is Roland. Both are good. I like to say Pastor Roland because on my Talk to a Pastor site and my blog, people come there because they're expecting a pastor, which I am. Okay? But then on the other hand, I have a couple of other blogs, especially healing relationships and my Christian marriage blog and my emotional self-control blog, for example. A lot of people come there and they're not looking for a pastor. They have issues and they're looking for solutions, which I have. But if I were to immediately start saying I'm a pastor and wear my clerical collar and so on, well, they might go away right away because they would think I was trying to lay a trip on them. So I kind of do both. But either way, I'm the same person, and I'm not trying to lay a trip on you either way. See, the human being is a very sensitive creature, and there's some very delicate things involved when it comes to people because you're dealing with a soul. You're dealing with a spiritual being. Okay? A spiritual being in a body. So there's some very delicate things involved. And some people have had a bad experience with religion, quote unquote religion. Someone who claimed to be religious. They were probably the opposite. And somehow they turn the person off to religion. Now, we tend to overreact. We egos, we tend to go from one extreme to another. And one of our problems is overreacting. In fact, that's a big problem that we have, which everything I've been doing for the past 25 years has been trying to help people to see that they are overreacting and show them how not to overreact. But people overreact and then, see, in other words, like if a person is scared by one dog, has a bad experience with one dog, then a lot of people will tend then to be afraid of all dogs or to resent all dogs. See what I mean? So people maybe had a bad experience with one person who claimed to be a Christian or claimed to be religious, or maybe they had a bad experience with two people. But then you've heard the old expression to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, that's what they do. Then they reject all religion, all Christians. See what I mean? But just because one Christian is not so good doesn't mean that all are not so good. And it doesn't mean that the message is not true. I'll give you an example. Math, for example. Okay, now there are some good math teachers and not so good. Okay, maybe you don't need a math teacher. A lot of that Einstein was pretty much self-taught up until he got to the higher levels, physics, advanced physics, and so on. Then of course, he went to school, university, but for the most part, he was self-taught. A friend of the family, I believe, used to visit the family and come by and for dinner, perhaps, or something, and brought Albert Einstein brought Albert Einstein a geometry book. And Albert Einstein loved that geometry book, Euclid. And then he was very much self-taught. Abraham Lincoln is another person who was very much self-taught. You didn't know that, I bet. In fact, when he was a kid, there was only one book in the home. One book. It was the Bible. That's the only book he read. And at night he would read by the fire. I used to have a book with a picture of Abraham Lincoln, a painting of Abraham Lincoln as a young man by the fireplace. reading a book. I think laying on the floor. You know how kids like to lay on their tummy and have a book in front of them. That's what he was doing. Beautiful painting. I'll look for it. See if I can find it. But anyway, so he didn't need. Okay, see. So it's a big lie. So there's a big lie about money. That schools need more money, more everything. No, they don't. See, sometimes one book. Albert Einstein had one book. It was a geometry book. He got him started, and then he learned it very well. And then later he went to advanced studies. Abraham Lincoln had one book, and then later he went to law school. You see, so you get the idea. Now I forgot what I was trying to say in the first place. Well, I totally forgot my point. I was talking about how people overreact and throw the baby out with. I was giving you an example. I was saying that people have a bad experience with one quote unquote religious person, probably a false religious person, masquerading as a real religious person. And then they reject all religion. But I said just because one person is not so good, or suppose they're all no good. Suppose they're all no good. Every church, every person, I'm just saying, let's suppose they're all no good. Okay, well, what's true is still true. And you should be able to find the truth on your own. You should be able to discover. See, God gave you intuition. God gave animals instinct. He gave humans intuition. So you can discover everything that you need to know inwardly, intuitively. Okay? And if you were to follow your intuition, they say trust your gut. See, there's more knowledge about such things out there than you would think. Everybody knows you're supposed to trust your gut. They always tell you that when ladies go to a self-defense class, for example. They say trust your gut, trust your intuition. If you're walking down the street at night after having been to a college class and now it's dark at night, and the class is over at 9 o'clock or something, and now you're walking home and there's a shortcut to get to your car through the alley, but all of a sudden somehow you wordlessly know something is withholding you, something is stopping you, your intuition is warning you not to go down that alley. Okay, then don't go down that alley. Trust your intuition. Okay, but we should be able to learn everything, discover everything by way of intuition. That's what God gives you. Which way to go in life, what to do, what not to do. See, little by little, slowly. That's the kind of relationship that Abraham had with God, Isaac. See, the great patriarch, the prophets. Isaiah, Daniel. See, Paul. People like that. They somehow knew within. Okay? Because they were always looking for the rightness of things and always wondering what to do next. They didn't try to figure out what to do next. They wondered, which is innocent. They wondered. And all of a sudden they knew which way to take the step. And they didn't know what the result would be. See, they didn't have a goal in mind other than to do what's right for every moment. But they didn't have a goal, so then they took a step, and then they checked with their intuition, and another step, and that's how they led their life. And one thing led to another, and before you know it, they were in the right place doing what they were supposed to do. Same with Einstein. If you read his works, you'll find out that he was very much an intuitionalist. He talked about intuition all the time. His imagination. See, the people who don't want you to know about intuition. See, those people, well, they say, well, imagination. Well, yes, he used his imagination. He had thought experiments, but his imagination was a tool of intuition. Okay? So you should be able to discover everything you need to know by way from within, by intuition. Okay? So my example was math. Suppose all the math teachers are no good. Math is still true. Okay? The basic truths of mathematics are still true whether or not there are any good teachers around. whether or not they know what they're doing. And you should be able to discover those truths on your own. Okay? So how do I study? How do I learn things? Well, what I do is I'm always scanning. I scan things. I don't read books, I scan them. With the internet, I scan. I have a little intuitive sense that leads me to, where I'm to be or what I should look at. And then when I see it, it sits right with me. So I can pick up a book, leaf through the book, and see one sentence. One sentence sticks out, and that's it. That's the idea that I get from that book. I don't need to read the whole book. I open the book, I can look through the table of contents, look at the back of the book, look at the preface, scan through, see. And those then see, or I also use those books, for example, or internet resources, or other people. See, I pick other people's brains. I use them to gather the little the words I need. So I learn the words, the vocabulary, a few formula for math, and then I have the basic little tools with to build with. See, but then my intuition guides me. So ultimately, it's my intuition, whether there's a big bang or not a big bang, whether there's an evolution or there's a kind of evolution or there's no evolution. See, these things and other things, even more practical things, my intuition eventually will lead me to know. So that's the way you need to be. So it shouldn't matter if all the religious people, whether they were Christian or Buddhist or, see, whatever they are, if they weren't so good, doesn't matter. Shouldn't make any difference. You should still be free to discover on your own what is true. And what is true does matter. So I began this lecture by saying that human beings are a soul in a body. So there's very delicate things involved. And so it's the job of Father. It's Father's job. Father, as I've said so many times, it's a hard teaching. It's not hard for me, but it's hard for a lot of people. When I say that Father stands in for God in the eyes of the child. Okay? And it's Father's job, see, to be the Moses of the family, the David, the Paul, the George Washington of the family. So he mustn't have any vices. He must stand for what's right. He must be principled and honorable. And he must have courage, kindness, forbearance, long-suffering, patience. See? And it's his job to ever so delicately, guided intuitively from within, by the light, by the good Lord's wordless guidance, to ever so delicately introduce his family to what is true, mostly by his example, and then by what he says. See, and he doesn't force it on them, because if he forces it on them or tries to seduce them or pressure them, then they'll either be forced to conform or rebel. You see how delicate it is? Remember I said humans go to extremes, which is not good. You should be in your center. That's where you should be, in your center, not going to extremes. So if something is really, really wrong, totally incorrect, you see that it's incorrect, but you don't react to it emotionally. And if something is right, you see that it's right, but you don't react to it emotionally. You just see that it's right. Okay? So that's where you should be, in your center, and that's where Father should be, and he delicately guides his family. So that one day, having set a good example for them, and having kept them safe, okay, and protected them from untoward influence, then one day they are free to see and to accept what is true about religion or not accept, to accept God or not accept. They're free. He leaves them free. Of course, if he's a good father, then they will love the goodness that they see in him. It comes from God, and so that makes it just a small step to transfer the love from the good Father to the Heavenly Father, to transfer allegiance from the good Father that you have for your good Father to the Heavenly Father. You see? It's much easier. Now, most of us, our father didn't do a very good job. He turned everything over to mom, the doctors, the teachers, the professors, the educators, coaches, the media, Facebook. He defected. See, didn't do his duty. Let everyone else be in charge. And then you see the results. That's his weakness. That's his error. That's his shame. Okay? Mom did the best she could. Often moms do the best they can. Someone has to be in charge. Someone has to make decisions. Someone has to fill the breach. So mom did, but she did the best she could, but she undoubtedly resented her husband for his weakness. There's very delicate things involved. So now you see, I began by saying that I'm a pastor. And for those people who see, the problem with that is that some people will they hear the word pastor or see the clerical collar, and then they react hypnotically to it, either for or against. See, it'd be better if they didn't respond one way or the other. Okay. On the other hand, if I don't have my clerical collar on and I just call myself Roland, not Pastor Roland, then if what I say is true, then it's true. See? In other words, you shouldn't accept something. What do they call that? The white coat syndrome? You shouldn't accept something just because somebody has a white coat on, or just because they have a clerical collar on. See what I mean? That doesn't make it right. You accept something because you see that it's true. And if you don't know, you wait until you do know. You hear what they have to say, but just leave it. And on the other hand, you shouldn't reject anything simply because you dislike the person who's saying it. See? The truth is the truth. Truth is axiomatic. Truth is self-evident. And that's why you need to search for truth on your own, and so watch out for resentment. See, by resenting people, that gets you all caught up in rejecting people and what they say. And so the best thing is just to stand back, okay, let go of the resentment, stand back, let it all go, make it unimportant what someone said or didn't, whether they were good or not good. Just make it unimportant, and then continue doing what you know is right on a moment by moment basis, and delicately searching out the way, trusting in your intuition. Okay, then you'll be okay. And you might even discover the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.